Elevate your hatching egg shipping business with Beyond the Egg. Discover the art of premium packaging, master the details of shipping, and create an unforgettable experience for your customers. Enhance your reputation, build lasting trust, and set your business apart as the gold standard. Visit BeyondTheEgg.com to begin your journey to excellence.
Does venison taste like beef?
No.
No, but it's
It's like saying everything tastes like chicken.
Welcome to the Poultry Nerds Podcast, where breeders, backyard keepers, and hatch fanatics come together to talk everything poultry. Subscribe and follow so you never miss an episode. Now, here are your hosts, Jennifer Bryant and Carrie Blackman.
So, today, we have another listener request.
We're getting lots of those.
I like them because when you're like, what should we talk about this week on the show? And then you have listener requests. Oh, that just makes it easy.
It does.
Because we like our listeners.
And this one is good right before I make dinner.
True. So today, for those that can't see, we're going to talk about heritage chicken versus hybrid from what you buy at the store. And does it really all just taste like chicken?
No. Well, since the meat birds don't really have much flavor, I guess that's easy to say that.
But even if you take a meat bird or if you take a heritage bird and season it and cook it and all of that, it's like even more flavorful.
Yeah. So I think people, if you haven't ever tried a heritage bird, you're really missing out, honestly. But they all have their purpose in the pantry. I don't think one necessarily replaces another until you've developed your palate, maybe. I personally am to the point where I don't want to eat another Cornish, but now that I have the breasts, but we're going to kind of get into that. And really there's 3 categories, but I didn't know how to make that into the title because the breast is technically a heritage, but it's not the equivalent of eating a Orpington or a red. I'm not eating a red. I'm just going to assume that it's like eating an Orpington.
They're not the breast. It's still chicken, and it's still better than the hybrids.
All right, so let's look at my slideshow. I'm getting all kind of fancy with my slideshows here.
They're nice.
So a heritage bird is one that can naturally mate and reproduce. So just your regular barnyard chicken or one that you see at a show, those would all be heritage birds. Your traditional breeds like the Orpington or the Bielefelder or whatever, or the Rocks, they're typically
there's tons of them.
Yeah, just whatever you want. It's a chicken, a regular chicken. They're dual purpose. Chicken. You're going to get meat and eggs off of them. And you could probably do triple purpose and add some bug control and some yard candy and some just relaxation TV in your yard, maybe.
When I look at your Orpingtons, like this time of year especially, it's like a bunch of bleached blondes out there hanging out on the beach.
Yeah.
And then they run and waddle kind of at the same time.
Yeah, fluffy butts. They grow slower, but that is going to be dependent on your breed. So some will grow faster than others, and then some varieties inside the breed would grow faster. So a utility or hatchery version of an Orpington is going to grow a whole lot faster than what I have. So there's so much variation inside of a heritage breed that, yes, we're lumping them all together, but really they can't be lumped, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they fit in the real chicken category where you know what its parents was, you know what it came from, and all that. It's not like a hodgepodge that a mad scientist made up and you decided to eat it. Because a lot of people don't think about or don't realize what your commercial chickens live like or whatever else. And if you've ever seen the inside of one of those chicken houses, you might stop eating that chicken.
I've been in them. So there's different kinds of heritage breeds. This is a picture of one of your reds. I picked her for a reason. We're going to talk about her for a second. But they can be fast maturing, slow maturing, and dual purpose. The reason why I picked her was because I want people, if they're watching the video, the meat birds are selected for their breast size, because you want to eat the white meat. That's what society
Yeah,
wants,
most
is
people
white
do.
meat. So what I'm looking at here, and what I want to point out, is the size of her chest is not like a Cornish. This is a more natural looking bird, and you're not going to get 10 chicken tenders off of one bird with one of these. So visually, that's what I wanted to show with this picture. In contrast, this is a broiler chicken, and you can see that you're probably going to get at least 10 chicken tenders off of this bird.
And that son of a gun looks like it's 2 weeks old.
Yeah, I tried to find some good pictures from when I was growing them, and this is just a stock picture because my pictures were just pitiful, and I didn't.
They're
Yes,
never that clean.
No, they're not really. So broiler chicken, when we talk about broilers, meat chickens, we're talking about, in the United States, we're talking usually about the Cobb 500s or the Rosses. I don't know what the number is on the Ross, but those
Cobb and Ross both have a couple of different variations that they've come up with over the years. Every time they get one that's more efficient, they change the number and spin it out.
So did you see, I wrote, I don't even know if you look at our website. Did you look at our website and see the article I wrote on the Cobb 800 that just came out? Yeah, that thing is just massive.
What's crazy is they just had this 7 less than 6 months ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was recent. It was, I guess, not really recently, but because we already have a new one, but whatever. That just shows that there's some mad scientists playing with some chicken genetics to try to make higher profit margins.
So what a meat bird is, what we typically will refer to as a Cornish cross, because they're Cornish and rocks, if you want to be real general about the breakdown. But they're hybridized so many times over and over, and there's so much money spent on perfecting these birds. And I don't think people realize the amount of money and the amount of science that goes into generating them. So when I was doing the college course for the incubation, that was for commercial. That's where the money is. That's where the information you're going to get. And even I can look at stuff and I'm intelligent, but there's things you just don't even think about. So, for example, when they take them to the processing facility, that processing facility is designed to handle a certain pound carcass. So everything is down to pennies, really. So this bird is graded when it hatches. It has a certain feed to create that milder flavor. There's a lot of wheat in their feed. And it's supposed to grow, like they're trying to get it down to 58 days or something. And they have to meet a certain live weight so it will fit into the carriers, which will then be the right size to go onto the hooks in the processing facility to fit everything is right down.
They want it all to be
Uniform.
alike in uniform.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of money that is spent. We're talking billions every year, not just once, but billions every year to get your chicken as cheap as they possibly can. And it's really eye-opening if you really delve into all of it. So if you go to Walmart and you buy a Tyson chicken pack, right? That's how they're fed, that's how they're raised, that's how they're finished and packaged. and washed. I think they wash them with chemicals to kill salmonella and all kinds of. And I live near processing facility here. It's actually in the next town over. And so there's a lot of people here who have worked for them, and they're never eating another Tyson chicken as long as they live. So if you've never visited these places, see if you can't try to visit one. Then you know what you're
probably
eating.
won't want to. I
Well,
know
you
there
should.
used to be one in Tuscaloosa, and they had this huge wall of fans. So when an 18-wheeler would pull up with the baskets of chickens, they had fans blowing across them. So in the summertime, they didn't fall out before they wanted them to. And when you would drive by there, it was horrible smelling.
We'll be right back.
This episode is proudly supported by the folks at Valley Hatchery. Valley Hatchery isn't just chickens. They offer quail hatch and eggs, waterfowl, turkeys, game birds, guineas, and started pullets. The list really does go on. If it belongs on a working homestead, Valley Hatchery has it covered. What we appreciate is their focus on strong, healthy birds, clear information, and real choices like optional vaccinations, so you can raise your birds the way you want. From backyard flocks to working farms, Valley Hatchery provides hardworking birds for hardworking people. Learn more at valleyhatchery.com.
So their reasoning for doing this is they're telling the marketing wording that they use is that they have to mass produce this food in order to feed society. Before we had mass production, society ate.
Ate a lot better too.
Just question it. Now, of course, you have the alternative, and you can raise them at home. Now, I have raised them in large quantities, 3 separate occasions that I can remember off the top of my head. One, I kept them up in the condos over at the barn. And the second time, I put them up on the hill in the runs. And the third time, I kept them in the condos, but every morning I opened the doors and turned them out.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different. So their lifespan's pretty short. 8 weeks is max. So you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. It is not like a regular chicken. Yes, you have to brood them, but it's more like the timeline of a quail. So you brood them maybe on heat for 10, 12, 14 days max, depending on the time of year maybe. And then they need to go out draft free, but they don't need any heat. These little boogers are so hot.
Yeah, they put off a ton of heat.
They will steam up the barn.
The first time I took some out of the brooder, I was like, holy crap.
I thought I was
like
cooking.
These things are really hot.
Yeah. I can see where they would overheat quickly. They do not feather like a chicken. This is really not a good representation of a broiler. She has about 3 times as many feathers as...
That's probably a breeder that
maybe.
you found a picture of.
Yeah. They don't feather out very well, so it makes it easy to pluck them.
That is true.
So then, let's see, after about 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on the weather, you can take them outside. And you're going to want to take them outside because depending on how many you've got in your space, it is a hot mess. And I literally say hot mess.
Yeah.
And if you've never raised them, there is no way to describe the smell. They have their own smell. And it's pretty rough. I can't it's something that I can visualize or smell-alize right now. And I don't really want to remember the smell. But then you put them outside, and if you can get them on pasture and keep them moving, that's probably better. But they don't want to move. They want to eat and gorge and all the time, their entire life. That's what they want to do. So you don't really have to worry about them running off because
they ain't anywhere.
So even when I turned them loose, I would say that the farthest from the barn that they went 20 feet. They didn't go
No.
very far at all. And of course, I have a big 14-foot door on the front of my barn, and I have swinging gates on it. And we had to put those there for the ducks of all reasons, because the ducks would come in and just make a mess in the barn. But it was a good thing I had them there when I turned the Cornish out, because they would come and they would line up like zombies, like on, what's that show, Walking Dead, where they line up at the fence and they try to reach through, and they were trying to get through to the food on the other side. They knew it was in there. And so, yeah, they're very food orientated. And then even out on pasture, they get leg problems, feet problems. The water intake is an insane amount of water. They can go through, I don't even know how much per bird, but gallons and gallons a day, it seems like. You can't keep them in water. And then, of course, it comes out the other end. So then everything's wet and messy on the other end.
Yeah.
And then once they get so big, they want to start dropping dead. So you don't have any leeway. You can't plan a vacation. You can't say, okay, the weather's going to be bad this weekend, so we're not processing them. You don't have that luxury. When their time is up, their time is up. And that last batch that we did 150, and that was for 3 households for supposedly a year was the plan. And we couldn't do 150 in a day. And so what we did was we just took the biggest ones that looked like they wouldn't make it until the next weekend, and we processed them. And then throughout the week, I would go out there, and you can tell when they're fixing to go. They'll get really lethargic, like their heart's giving out, and they get really lethargic, and you can tell that they're not going to make it till the next day. And so every day that week, we processed several that day.
A little bit of fresh chicken.
Yep, exactly. And then the next weekend, we did the next, as many as we could of the largest ones. And then the third weekend, we just finished up any of the runts that needed to grow an extra weight. And we all
and I tell
swore we would
people-
never do it again.
I've had people that rent my plucker, and I've had people that just ask me about it in general. And I tell them, you'll know when it's time, and you're going to do all the males one week and hope you can do all the females the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, really?
Yep.
Yep. Because if you keep them moving and you keep their diet very limited and that sort of thing, so they can't gorge themselves, you can keep them alive longer, but you must manage it really well, or they'll get really obese and croak out.
So you cannot feed them 24/7. You have to decide how you're going to feed them. Some people do 12 on and 12 off. And I did that when they were in the barn before going out. And once they were outside, I elected to feed them twice. So I filled up the feeders in the morning and then again in the evening. Basically, here, let me feed you and open the doors, and then let me feed you to bring you back in, because they're very food orientated. It's raising a pig. You can get a pig to do whatever if you've got food.
Yeah.
So it's like that. But the manure is so wet and it cakes to everything. So the last 2 or 3 weeks of their lives, even though I was letting them out onto the grass every day, I actually got to where I moved the feeders to the grass in the morning to get them out of the condos. And then I would close the doors to make sure that they didn't go in there, because it was so packed. It's just really hard to explain. So it's 8 weeks to me of unenjoyable, smelly work. And at the end and then you've got to do a lot of work regardless of the weather. And then it's not just processing them, it's breaking them down, vacuum sealing them. And then you have to have freezer space. So if you're going to do enough for a year, if you can just kind of imagine if you eat one a week, 52 whole birds in your freezer. Now, we don't buy whole birds, so I was spatchcocking them and breaking them in half and cutting the backs out for broth and vacuum sealing them so I could lay them flat. Took up less space, but that's now 104 packages of chicken in the
That's a lot
freezer.
of chicken.
And then the other two households had to buy stand-up freezers. So I would never do that again. And even when I had them up in the breeder pens, they don't move around like a chicken. So the grass didn't get eaten. It got more flattened.
Mushed or flattened, yeah.
And then their poop just sticks on top of it because it's a carpet now of matted grass. So I hope I'm horribly telling people not to do it, because if you're in a confined space and you can't have chickens all year long, it's a great resource. But at the same time, you also need to be prepared for
What
your
you're getting into.
expectation. Yeah. So back to my slide here. So with the broiler chickens, they grow really fast. You're in and out with getting them and getting them out of there. You don't get any eggs. You do get a lot of white meat, though, because that's what they're bred for. And they are bred for uniformity. Now, I did not find them to be very uniform. When I had them, you would get some that wouldn't get over 3.5 pounds. And then you had some that were like 7 or 8 pounds. And of course, they're all eating the same thing. It could be related to feeder space, maybe.
I was going to say, a lot of times that's feeder space, because especially if you're using the round feeders and you've got a bunch, 150, whatever, a Cornish, you're going to have a ton of those feeders. If you've got 150, for them to all be able to eat at once, you're going to need probably 40 to 50 feet of trough space.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't have that.
So you think about it, not when they're little, but probably the last 3 weeks of their life, they're huger than a normal chicken and they're wide. So I would say you need, if they can access it from both sides, at 25 feet at least.
I would just like to interject here. I did not set out to have 150. I bought 200 in conjunction with other people. And one person came and took their 50 and the other person didn't show up. So we were only supposed to have 100 for 3 households. Anyway, so that happens too. So be aware that if you're going to buy together with other people to get a discount, because you do get a quantity discount on buying chicks when you order them. And it was significant enough that I put that order together. And I didn't ever do it again because I got stuck with those extra birds. And they do eat a lot. But even after I fed them non-GMO and took care of them with the shavings and everything, and it's been a few years, but I think they came out to $7 a bird, even with the cost of the chick. Now, I know
Sounds about right.
The cost of the chick has greatly increased since then. I want to say it was like $2 back then. I don't know what they are now.
If you know the right places to get them and you get quantity, you can get them. You can still get them around there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. Okay. So this is a picture of some boys, my Orpingtons, that are in the freezer now. And the reason why I wanted to talk about these guys was my big old Orpingtons. These guys probably topped out 9 or 10 pounds when we processed them. And so they were probably 10, 11 months old, maybe 9, somewhere around in there. So they were out on grass. They moved. They flew up onto a roost. They argued with each other. They fluttered around. They acted like chickens, right? They ate bugs. They ate grass. They laid in the sun. They ate dirt and rocks. And
I bet when those suckers land on a roost pole, it's a couple feet up, I bet if it's a 2x4, I bet it bows a little bit. Yeah, it definitely flexes when they land.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why I'm pointing all of that out is a Cornish, like I said, remember, he doesn't move 20 feet from the barn. These guys moved like a chicken moves.
Yeah.
That developed their tendons. So the tendons are attached to their keel bone that works their wings, right? And so all those tendons developed, the tendons in their legs developed from jumping and landing, and they had to build up those leg muscles in order to do that. So there's a big difference from a chicken that lays around and grows muscle and a chicken that jumps around and works the muscles to grow them. And so those bones developed over, let's just go with 10 months, okay? So 10 months of minerals being absorbed, vitamins from everything that they ate and the exercise and all of those good things. And that's where the flavor comes from. But at the same time, you also get a texture change. When something is just laying around and gaining weight, it's going to be, I'm going to use the word mushy almost, like it just falls apart. And these guys are going to have more connective tissue. So when you're eating it, people refer to it as chewy. And it's going to have a stronger flavor. It's going to be a darker color. The Cornish is going to be like a white meat. This is still white meat, but it's going to be a darker white.
Yeah.
So that it's different. I always tell people it's like saying venison and beef is interchangeable. And it is. You can still put both in spaghetti, but it's going to taste different because one was wild and ate stuff out in the woods, and most of the beef that you buy at the store is going to be grain lot stuff. There's a difference.
But I will say, if you grow your beef and you harvest a buck and your spouse absolutely refuses to eat Bambi's daddy, so they won't have it. But if you use that to cook spaghetti before they get home, they'll never know.
I'm going to tell you a secret. I figured it out on accident. If you take ground venison and you put it in when it's still frozen and you're trying to cook it real quick, so you put a bunch of water in the pan to try to defrost it and cook it all at the same time, you essentially almost, for lack of a better word, boil the meat. That takes a lot of the flavor out of it.
The
person doesn't always know that they're eating venison when you do it that way. And I was able to clean out the freezer quickly. Figured that out.
Nice.
I know. See, happy accidents, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so to go back to the Orpingtons or even the Reds or anything else, the heritage breeds, the more age and the more activity and the more varied the diet, the more developed the bones are going to be. And that's where you're going to get into the different chicken broths. And so I grew up, my mom won't eat here because she's scared of what I will feed her. She likes to eat at McDonald's and she likes to pour her chicken broth out of a box. And you're supposed to be able to see through it. That's what she thinks normal chicken broth is going to look like.
Okay.
Chicken broth looks like the color of the screen. It's pretty dark brown. So if you've not made broth with a heritage chicken carcass, then to be honest with you, you haven't lived, because that is some of the best broth. You don't even have to put anything else in it. You can just sit and drink mugs of it in the winter.
Yeah, it's really rich.
Yeah, maybe a little salt. But yeah, so I cook mine down. What I do is I just cook my carcasses down and then I strain it and then I put it back on the stove and reduce it probably by 2/3. And when you do that and you put it in the refrigerator, it basically all turns into a gelatin. And at that point, if you don't have a freeze dryer, put it in a jar and just leave it in your refrigerator. and you just take a spoonful of it out whenever you want some. I put it in the freeze dryer and turn it into a powder and keep it in jars on my shelf. And in the wintertime, I actually keep it by my coffee mugs, and we'll keep hot water in the coffee pot. And we'll just put 3 or 4 tablespoons of that in the mugs and drink chicken broth when we're cold in the middle of the day. So it's pretty good. But so you'll get the darker color, the fuller flavor. The gelatin will be in there. It'll be more nutritious because of the minerals and the vitamins,
It'll be gelatinous.
which is all good for you too.
I like that word.
So until I had that, I tried to make broth from the Cornish, and you get the stuff just like you pour out of a box. And then it occurred to me that's what they're doing because they are using every piece of the chicken to make money. And so when they cut it up for the tenders to put in the package that you buy at Walmart, they are left with the bones. So they make the broths and put them in the boxes and sell them to you.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so light, because they never developed the bone and the connective tissue to make a decent broth. Okay. So this is actually my kitchen where I was working. So you can the chicken. Now, I will say, I'm going to go on a limb and say this is Orpington in this picture. If you chop up the white meat, the breast meat on an Orpington, and you can it, you cannot tell the difference if it's Orpington or breast or Cornish in that jar. Something about the canning process tenderizes it so much that it has the same texture at the end.
You're like cooking it slowly when you can it in broth. I can see how that could make it really tender. And I'm suddenly getting really hungry too.
So I can a lot of chicken. And I have figured out to do it bone in. And that has really made the difference. So David likes white meat and I like dark meat, but we both like the broth, the richness of the broth. So I always use pint jars, wide mouth pint jars. And so what I do is I put either a leg or a thigh in, and then I stuff white meat chunks around in it, and then I can it. So you not only get the meat, but then you also get the bone broth and the gelatin coming out of the bone into the jar on top of it. And then when you open it, I have had people ask me how to debone it. Once you open it, you just grab the bone, pull it out.
Like twist your wrist as you lift up and then dump it out.
That in the front looks like it's just pulled chicken with some barbecue sauce or something on it.
I was going to say, it looks like it's hot, like it's got some hot sauce on it.
Nah, that's not going to be in this house. Probably was either barbecue sauce or taco meat. So the Orpington, because remember I said the connective tissue and it's going to be a little chewier. The Orpington is good for cutting it in small pieces and using it in soups or stews or canning it, things like that. And then the Cornish, if you wanted to compare and contrast those two, we kept the Cornish for barbecue chicken, baked chicken, fried chicken, because you needed that more tender and less chewy.
Yeah.
Because while we live on the farm and we try to eat, is what we have, we were still raised on that processed texture. And sometimes you just...
it's like a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, exactly.
Something it's not great for you, but you still like it anyway.
Yep.
Go.
So I want to point out 2 things. The Cornish, remember what I said, you're in and out. You're not going to want to keep Cornish year round. I wouldn't think you would want to. So you're going to have freezer space. Whereas if you're raising heritage birds, you could just go out there once a month.
I was going to say, if you're raising heritage birds and you decide you want some chicken, you can go pick out the one that you want to get off your feed bill.
Yeah, and that's how people did it because they didn't have refrigerators. So they just
Doesn't get a whole lot fresher than that.
no, and we've done that. You do want to let them rest if you can. So you don't have a committed time frame. If you don't feel like butchering this weekend and you have heritage birds, then okay, go on vacation and they'll still be there when you get back. They'll just be an ounce bigger or something. But you cannot do that with Cornish. You can't break a leg and go in the hospital. You can't do anything. You're committed to that time frame.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. So I had it in my head to kind of compare the breasts in there a little bit, and we've kind of not talked about them. So when you brought me the breasts, I was reluctant. I assumed they would taste more like the Orpington, and David was going to want that more processed texture of the Cornish. Since we have eaten the breasts for almost 2 years now, I will never go back to Cornish, ever. That's how much I like it. It is a middle ground. If you didn't know about the broth and the richness of an older Orpington or any older bird, then the breasts would be great and might actually taste a little wild compared to a Cornish. The bones are going to be more developed because the birds are older, but they're still won't give you the broth of an older bird. And I really like chicken broth. I have so much chicken broth in the pantry. We use it
And
on
folks,
everything.
she ain't lying. Like,
Um,
I've seen
Shelves
her.
of it.
I've seen her collection of mason jars. Lord forbid her go in a store and they're trying to clearance them out. She's gonna help them out real fast.
Yep.
I gotta admit, there's been a couple times where I went places and been like, y'all are selling quart white. Oh, they're white. Quart. Hey, I mean, y'all got any more of these? Because you can do so much with a wide mouth jar.
You can. I don't use regular mouth. I use always quart. No, I keep saying quart. I use pints, wide mouth pints, because it's the perfect size for 2 people. And if you
Mhm.
have extra people, you open 2 jars. It's not rocket science. They're
Right.
not leftovers people. Leftovers go in the refrigerator to be thrown away a week later. And so a pint jar is the perfect size for us. And so I have so much chicken broth put up, and I can look at the color of it and tell you if it's Orpington or breasts. That's how much of a difference there is. And the kids come over and they shop in our pantry, and I give them the breasts because I'll keep all the Orpington broth for ourselves. So call me a mean mama, but I did all the work, so I'm going to keep it and do it that way.
It is what it is.
Exactly. So the breasts, I'm harvesting mine right around 17 weeks. So you still get that tender of the young bird. I'm running right around a 5-ish pound carcass on them, which is plenty of food for us. I'm tractoring them so they get grass and bugs and food. They get your food until about 2 weeks before. So around 15 weeks. And then I switch them off to a all flock because I want to put a nice fat layer on them and a little bit blander flavor, get rid of the fish meal. And
I was
that's
gonna
just
say, you don't like the fish meal or the barley or the wheat or the oats being really strong?
so I know that your food's got fish meal, a lot of fish meal in it, and it doesn't bother anybody else, but I can taste it.
Now that breeder ration has a lot in it.
Yeah.
So
So I
you-
can taste it in the eggs.
you're not the only person who said that.
Okay. So my layer flock gets combat because of that, because I eat a lot of scrambled eggs. But the breeders all get your food. The grow outs that we're going to put in the freezer get your food because they grow better on it. And then I'll switch them off to off-lock in order to finish them. Now, I have tried to finish them like the French finish them with a lot of wheat and corn and milk. I could not tell a difference. I have tried.
Not with those.
I know over there they sell those and they pay $150 a head or some incredible price on them that I would never pay for a chicken, a dead chicken anyway. And maybe if I paid that much for a chicken, I could tell the difference in the flavor. But for 17
you could be looking for a difference if you paid that kind of money.
I also think that, okay, so it's not just the finishing, and I think people get hung up on that. I have read how they do it, and they raise them on pasture until a certain age, and then they bring them in and finish them. And it's not 17 weeks, it's older. The difference is that area of France, the pasture and the climate is more like Oregon, the lush pasture fields, the green. It's not like what we have here. And like right now, it doesn't rain here. So our grass is going to be dead here in a month. And we're not going to have anything all summer until winter. Maybe we might have something. So I don't have the same environment here. So it would be wrong to try to finish them and then compare it. Because they're I'm doing the best I can with the pasture that I have. But basically, most of their diet is grain. It's just a fact. And so putting them on a different grain for the last 2 weeks, I don't think is going to change that flavor profile. But if you had them on green grass their whole life for months on end, and then put them on a mild flavored grain, I could probably tell the difference. That would be like butchering a cow in the spring versus butchering a cow in the fall. In the spring, when the onions are shooting up, you're going to taste onion in the meat. You always butcher in the fall. So you don't have that. So anyway, so the breasts act like a chicken, reproduce like a chicken, lay eggs like machines. I have never seen a bird lay eggs like those things. And they grow and they're tasty and their meat is tender. You can cut it with a fork. Almost right off the bird, you can cut it with a fork. So I don't see why you wouldn't want to just have a breast. And then you don't have to buy extra freezers just for the chickens. So we now have it worked out to doing 30 birds per quarter. The kids told me a number of birds that they wanted or they thought that they wanted. And so we're working at 30 right now, and then we can tweak it if we want to. But I think
that's
that would
easy
be
to do.
sufficient. Yeah, exactly. So that's 4 months, right? So I hatch them. They lay the eggs, so that's a week. Hatch them, so we're at a month. Raise them for 3 weeks or 3 months, and butcher them, put them in the freezer. Whoop-de-doo.
Yep,
Yeah, we can do 30 in a day. That's no big deal.
Yeah.
All right. So this slide is just pros and cons. So the pros is you always have birds. You never have to buy chicks, and you have eggs. The cons would be you have to feed them all year because you always have birds. You have to buy chicks if you want to raise the meat birds because you can't reproduce those, and you don't get any eggs. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's what you want to eat, how you want to take care of them, the space that you have,
The time that you have.
and how much money you want to put into feed. Do you want to feed them every day for an entire year? There's no wrong answer. But just be honest with yourself on what you want to do. It is what it is. It's your kitchen.
That's right. Your kitchen, your farm, your rules.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope that answers her question. I guess the answer at the end of the day is I do breasts and Orpingtons, but for 2 different reasons.
That's fair. To me, it just really depends on what you want. Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us on the Poultry Nerds podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with another poultry nerd. You can find today's companion blog, Links and show notes at poultrynerdspodcast.com. Until next time, keep learning, breeding better birds, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us this week. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they are released. And they're released every week. Feel free to email us at poultrynerds@gmail.com to share your thoughts about the show. Until next time, Poultry Pals, keep clucking, keep learning, and keep it exciting. This is Carrie signing off from Poultry Nerds. Feathers up, everyone.